Welcome to this episode of Harvey County Talk. As always, I'm your host, Lance Gormley. Our guest on the program today is Stacy Rogers. Stacy has quite an extensive business background, so I'm only going to name a few. She's the owner of Eberly Farms, Kids Closet, Wichita, KCC North America, which has 26 franchises, and as you know, is also running for Kansas Governor. How are you doing today, Stacy?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you for coming on the program, and we're getting out on a blistery cold day, but that doesn't stop you, does it? Because you're doing the thing. And, well, you know, I just before we get started, I just want to say I asked you to come out here on the program because I'm always interested in people that are running for any kind of office. I'm a political junkie, as anybody knows, and just really want to take people that are, you know, getting out there, doing it, and don't necessarily, I guess you would consider it not necessarily been in politics before. Right. And I think that you having a voice is a wonderful thing, and I want to try to make sure that that gets done today.
Awesome. Yeah, right. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So as anybody knows, when we start the program, we always just ask, where you hail from? Where were you born? Are you lifelong Kansan? Kind of just give the audience a little bit about who you are as far as, you know, maybe even like what you did in high school or where you went to high school. So.
Right. So I was born in Wichita, and then I was raised in Newton. I moved here when I was 6, so the middle of my kindergarten year, and I graduated from Newton. So I'm a lifelong Kansan, and in high school I was in Rail Airs, so I did a lot of singing. Okay. And not a whole lot other than that. I really like to sing. Yeah. I started out in freshman choir. I was in Les Chantés. I don't know if they still have that, which was an all-girls group. And then I went into Rail Airs, which is the mixed group.
Very cool.
For the last 2 years, yeah.
So growing up, what did you think of Newton? Looking back, was it just a real nice place to be raised? I mean, we're kind of known as a small town. But what were some of the things that you really enjoyed about Newton as a whole?
Well, it's interesting because I was born on the south end of Wichita on a dirt road, and by my school, I walked to my school, and it was like 2 blocks away. So when we moved from Wichita, to me, Wichita wasn't very big at that time. It was, but I only saw a very small part of it. So when we moved to Newton felt bigger in a lot of ways, which was interesting, but I could still walk to school. I could still do some of those same things. It was actually a little bit further to walk to school. I went to Northridge. And so, it was a great place to grow up. I have wonderful friends. I'm still friends with a lot of them today, and come back to Newton often and get to spend time with people. So,
graduated as a railer, you said, and then from there went out into the world. Yeah. I just got to say, you are quite the businesswoman.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
So, I mean, when you're talking about 26 different franchises, we're talking about Eberly Farm. Yeah. All the ones that I listed, plus I'm sure many more, because when we talked about it before the program, it's like, well, and that's a list. Yeah. You know, what inclines you to want to take the entrepreneur path, the business path, in life? So
I didn't really have that thought process back when I was younger. The last 20 years is when I became an entrepreneur. Prior to that, you know, my first person that I voted for was Ross Perot, and he was a businessman. And I was 18 years old, fresh out of high school, and wasn't really thinking entrepreneurially at all. But something he said, you know, stuck with me. Like, it resonated with me a lot more than what I was hearing from other people. And so it was there. I just hadn't tapped into it yet at that age. And so as I continued on, really it became a question of, do I go out into the workforce while I was raising my children, or do I figure out how to make money from my house or from, you know, some other source where I could be more available to my kids? And that's really how it got started. So I have another business. I actually sell books on Amazon. Okay. I've done it for 22 years now. And that was my first, like, kind of experience with the entrepreneurial world. And I've done it so long. That was back when Amazon only sold books. And so that's when I got in there. But I still do that today. You know, that's something that kind of is my baby, my pet project now. But that was where I kind of started. And then I kind of just moved forward from there. So,
well, and then speaking of being a mom,
yeah,
I've got some kids myself. How many? What's your crew look like? How many kids you have? How old are they?
Yeah, I have 3 boys.
Oh man,
they are. Yeah,
they kept you busy, didn't they?
They did. They're 5 years apart. So I always joke that I'd get one, into school, and then I'd immediately have another one. But so it was like 15 years of diapers and getting kids into school is kind of crazy. But my oldest is 31, and he's an accountant. He's a CPA. And my middle son is 26, and he is actually disabled. I have 2 kids with some disabilities and challenges, and he works for Dillon's, so he does great there. And then my youngest son is 21, and he actually is a diesel mechanic. So they're all very, very unique people and have very unique interests, and they're amazing.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of my boys.
Inspired them to follow their dream, whatever that is that they want to do. That's very cool. So I guess from here, I mean, can we just talk politics?
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds good.
So you're running for governor.
Yeah.
You've never been elected to public office before.
I have.
Okay.
I was a city council member in Mount Hope for 6 years.
Okay. So my apologies for not knowing that.
Yeah.
Should know my person's bio.
That's okay.
So let's back it up to that. Mount Hope, you decided to be a city commissioner there, or city council person.
Yeah.
What inspired you to want to get involved in the political process as an elected official? Well,
in that case, it's kind of a funny story. I really wasn't trying to get into politics at that time. I was in the middle of raising kids, and I had spent a little bit of time talking with the city manager. And he looked at me and he said, "You need to fill this out. You're going to be on the city council." And I said, "I just moved into town. What are you talking about? I don't know anything. I've never done anything like this before." And he said, "No, I like what you say, and I can tell you're sharp. So fill this out, and you're going to be on the city council." And so I didn't really campaign. I didn't really do anything. He said, "Don't worry, I'm going to tell everybody." That's a small town,
a strong voice campaigning for you.
Yes, I had in a small town, 875 people. He was the person that was talking to everybody. So it happened, but I learned a lot through that experience. And at the time, sometimes you go through things in life and you're like, why did that even occur? Why was I even put in that position? I was made the water commissioner.
Okay.
I knew nothing about water, and I was like, man, can't I have something easier like parks? Something.
Amenities. Come on.
Water is complicated,
yes,
and so what I did with that experience was, I always maximize every experience that I have. Any job I go into, I learn it to the best of my ability. I learn everything about it and everything around it. And so the same with this, I said, if I'm going to do any sort of adequate justice to this position I've been put into, I better go out and get educated. So I went a lot with Kansas League of Municipalities, attended a lot of their classes, went to Topeka a lot, went to just a lot of the functions that were available to me, and learned about water and learned about what it meant to be a councilwoman. And so, but still 6 years in, I got out of that and didn't touch politics again for 20 years. But I took some of those experiences when I was making this decision and realized a lot of that stuff, it kind of clicked into place of why I had that experience, because I could carry that into what I'm doing today. Yeah. And so, it was every experience that we have we can take something from it and apply it somewhere else in our life. It's how I've grown my businesses. It's how I'm applying things to this political goal of mine now.
And I'll tell you, I've also endeavored to understand water, treatment of it in my own community. Yeah. And that is no easy lift. I mean, many people underestimate the complexities of that, how that operates, how much state and federal regulation are involved in it. And then for you to go out and that to be something that became a focus for you says that you have quite a bit of depth, because that's the real mechanics. That's the meat and bones of a community, is that municipality, and being able to understand how that works. It's very expensive. Yeah,
Yes.
that says a lot.
Well, and I'm no expert in water by any stretch of the imagination, but
I don't know anybody that could
what?
be.
No. I have people that spend a lot more time and focus on water, and I just call them with my questions. But one of the things that was interesting about that time and where we sit today in Kansas is that at that time, I was learning about an agreement we actually had with Israel. And we were supposed to trade, learn from them. They can grow amazing things in the desert. And we were supposed to be able to take some of that technology and utilize it here. When I started to look into running for governor, I started looking at the water issue. Obviously, Wichita's having a huge water issue, and with Cheney and all that. And I started thinking, well, what do we do with that partnership? That was 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago. And I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find where we had utilized a lot of the technology. Some of it is starting to come into play now, but man, that's a long game to get, to be able to clean up our gray water for reuse. Israel's been doing it for a very long time. Yeah. Why is it taking us so long to get that? We've already had the technology available to us. It was available 20 years ago. And so the only thing I could ever see that we'd really put into practice from that 20 years ago was drip irrigation. That was it. And I thought, man, there had to be way better things that Israel had to offer. So I started to pull some things up, and I realized that there was a map. And it was a prediction map back from 2012. And it was something that Israel had made. It was of the entire world. And it showed in 2025, is that interesting? In 2025, where we would have water crisis throughout the world. And a big, huge red dot sits over Kansas. So this is information that we have had for well over 20 years. And it's not the hot and sexy topic that anybody wants to really focus on until we don't have it. Yeah. And so for 20 years, we've kind of not been good stewards of the information we had available to us. And that is frustrating, because now we are facing this huge water issue, and we're going to continue to face it. It's not going to go away, and we could have been much more proactive about it.
Yeah, well, you're right in line with something that I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
I know that all of Kansas, out in western Kansas with the Oglala, the usage of that, how we grow crops, what crops we grow, usage of water, all of that is a pretty big issue. Like you said, it's not the hot and sexy topic that people want to talk about. It's not usually something that garners a lot of media attention because, well, one party's not against the other party on it. It's an issue, like you said, I think is very forward thinking. What you just said is that it's not really something that we did a lot to deal with. And now it's getting to be crunch time. And I want to say that I think that is something that they'll try to discuss a little bit here this legislative cycle, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of leadership on that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you brought that up as something that you look into as far as an issue that needs to be solved, that needs some leadership behind that.
Well, and I'm a little concerned that it's almost too little too late at this point. I mean, we've reached a very critical time where, for whatever reason, it's been ignored or not taken seriously for the past 22 years, 23 years. And, that is the scary thing. Is it too little too late for what we're doing now? So,
yeah. It's never too late.
I hope
it might
not.
be a little bit more of a struggle moving out. But yes, it's never a good thing to get to the critical stage before we address an issue. And,
exactly.
I want to say that that happens all too frequently when it comes to people making decisions in the public realm for the benefit of the future of where we're supposed to be headed.
But when we wait until it's critical, it ends up costing us far more money and far more resources than it would have had we been proactive. 100%. And so that's part of the issue as well. I mean, this is going to cost so much more than if we put some of these things into place that would have kept this from happening to begin with. So,
Agreed.
yeah.
Great. Well, I would say you're very community minded. I'm gonna call that one there. So just you kind of a recap here. You're an entrepreneur, a plethora of businesses. You have served as a council member before, dealt with water issues, which is a huge deal, as we've just talked about. Kansas is in a situation where they're going to need to deal with this issue. We are at critical mass point. I agree with that. So right into it. What inspired you to want to take on the job? And it's a very difficult job, but it's also one that has very little reward and a lot of criticism. And there is a lot of people that are involved in politics already that are moving their own self down the line, and not to say anything negative about that, but you are outside of the beltway, so to speak. I'll just call it that. What made you want to just say, I think this is something that I want to do. I think I can help in that way. Why? The why is the question.
I'm an outsider, and I actually think that is a very good thing at this point. I think when I first started to go through this process, I was actually standing in my living room, and it was the day that Laura Kelly had decided that people could change their gender on their driver's license. And I was frustrated. I'm a frustrated Kansan. That's really it in a nutshell. And I threw my hands up in the middle of my living room and I said, I cannot take any more of this. I'm just going to have to go be governor. And at that moment, it was imprinted in my heart. It had never been there before, and it has never left since. And so one of the things about that was, I don't know how many times a day you look at your driver's license, or how many times a day people look at your driver's license. It's not a critical thing to be able to do that. It's not something that is going to directly affect your life on a daily basis. And to use taxpayer dollars and time to address something that has little consequence to our daily life seemed irresponsible to me. There were far more important subjects and things to tackle that she could have been paying attention to, and she chose to do that. So that was a point, like I said, a point of frustration that just said, somebody's got to do something. And so I decided that and started talking with people and expressing my frustration, and they kind of look at me funny for a minute and then take a step back and say, well, that might not be such a bad thing. And I kind of set it down for a little bit, didn't think about it, and this was in September of 23, and it was brought back into my attention in about December of 23. And I again started talking with people. I was going to not run this time. I was going to run next time because I felt like I needed to learn a lot before I would be able to do the job adequately. And through the conversations that I was having, instead, I was encouraged to know this is the right time to do it. Just do it. And so I made the decision in May, had some more conversations, and then ended up filing my treasurer in September of 24. And so, for me, as I started to have these conversations, how this grew and I knew that I was making the right choice was to hear the voices of citizens of this state, the people that live here, and how I wasn't the only one that was frustrated. There are lots of people who are frustrated in this state. And so being able to be that voice for them, we have had our voice taken away from us for a very long time. And that has been done through our career politicians who have been bought and paid for. They've been around for years and years and years and have not accomplished a lot for us. I think that they do a lot to appease, do just enough to make us feel warm and fuzzy. And let me stop here, because there are great legislators, wonderful people that are working really, really hard, and I'm friends with a lot of them. And then there's everybody else. And the everybody else is the problem. Once they are bought and paid for, they're no longer working for the people of the state. They're working for those special interests. They're working for those people that have paid them that money to say what they want them to say. And that is where we lose our voice as citizens of this state. So what happens when we lose our voice is, you have a choice. So as a Republican, you have a choice. And I've heard this many times. Well, I just vote R all the way down. Okay. Whether I like them or not, I don't have any choice. So I don't want to lose. So I'm just going to vote R. Even though they don't necessarily agree with the candidate or see themselves in that candidate. The other group, which we're seeing a bigger and bigger group of, we've seen incredibly low voter turnout because of it, is the group that says, I'm just not going to vote at all because I'm not seeing myself in that candidate. I don't believe these people are representing me properly, and I just am not going to participate. And that is also not where we want to be. Because you truly do lose your voice at that point. And we are smart people in this state. We deserve our voice. We deserve to be heard, and we deserve to be taken seriously. I am very much for smaller government and getting out of people's way to do what they need to do for their life. I feel like that has also been taken away a lot. And so when we have these career politicians that have been in there for 20, 30 years who do enough to appease, they make you feel warm and fuzzy, then they start playing the blame game. And they blame the governor and the Democrats and the moderates and the broken supermajority. And then they say, but if you elect me next time, I'm going to get that job done for you. And that is a process they repeat every, 2 to 4 years or however often they do it. And they don't. They have no actual incentive to actually complete things and get things done because that is not self-serving for their career and their money and power.
It's interesting that you say something. I would say I agree 100% on disenfranchised voters.
Yeah.
Many people I talk to are the system is broken. There's nobody there representing me,
right.
and they kind of see it. They're like a bloodhound onto a trail, right? And they get it. But also, I just have to add. And agree that there. I know a lot of legislators, and there's a lot of them that are wonderful people.
Yeah.
But there's also this remnant, which are there for self-serving interests, and whether that be I want this title, this makes my ego better, whatever it is,
right?
And then I can affirm the cycle that you're talking about, which is it's not my fault that anything couldn't get done. It's those mean, dirty, and then fill in the blank.
Right.
And then we fracture even like parties to say, well, it's this moderate Republican or it's this Republican that's doing this. But the reality is that if many more individuals were working in tandem with one another to get accomplished what needs to be accomplished for the benefit of our state and the citizens of our state, or even that our country, we would probably see a little bit different future, a little bit different world when we look around. And then I got to say, I agree once again that I have to say there are instances, many of them, where I ask the same question, like, is this really important? Is this something that we really need to be focused on? Or are there bigger fish to fry here?
Right.
And why is it that and I think it goes back to this being a political talking point, a point of division. I'm for you, they're not, they're against you, and it's for you, against you, us versus them, broken system. And so just, I mean, what are... We talked a little bit about challenges, right? As far as that you see in the political system,
right?
But what more specifically do you feel are some challenges that are facing Kansas for the future?
Right. There is a lot of challenges, and one of the things that I would like to do as a day one executive order is to create our own Doge, and to be able to take a good hard look at multiple departments and how they're functioning or how they're dysfunctioning at this point, and to be able to, gut out what doesn't need to be there. That's going to save money. It's also going to create a more efficient government and to allow the people to do what they need to do in the smaller government form. Things like our education system. Our education system is broken. It's just terrible. Now, to give you a little background on me, I have been a public school mom, a private school mom, and a homeschool mom. So I have run the gamut of all the different ways you could school, including tutoring, because I have 2 kids with disabilities, and we have worked very hard within that system to get them the education that they need so that they can be successful. So my youngest is profoundly dyslexic and profoundly dysgraphic. And had he stayed in the public school system, they would have failed him. They were failing him in kindergarten. When I took him out to homeschool, we found programs that worked for him. When he got to high school level, he went to a wonderful private school called Elyria Christian School up near McPherson. And had it not been for that school, he would not hold the associate's degree that he has today and hold the job that he wants today. They were entrenched in his success. And our education system is severely broken. I can provide report after report of the failing grades of our public schools. But yet we are dumping more and more money into them every single year, coming out of my pocket and your pocket. And we really don't have any idea where that money is even going. And the hard cold fact is that it's not reaching our children. It's not even reaching our teachers. And it's staying up in the administrative level, paying for things that probably don't need to be paid for, putting in programs that probably don't need to be put in, where we could be focusing more on the actual education of our children. And so when you look at the private school model, which are, whether they are teaching more Christian-based values or whether they're not, there are plenty of private schools that are secular as well. That's not really the point, but they are doing it on far less per child. We're at near $18,000 a student in Wichita in 259. The private schools are doing it for $3,000 to $5,000 a year, and delivering a much better education in the process. And so that's a big issue for me, the education system. I think that would save the taxpayers a lot of money by fixing a lot of those issues and dialing back some of the money that we're putting into that system. There are other areas that I think need to be addressed. There's a lot of property right concerns. Taxes are always a big thing, and so is our spending. But getting into those specifically at this juncture, again, one of the things that I learned when I was on a city council, it's easy to say things from the outside that I'm going to do this, this, and this. But I would be disingenuous and dishonest if I said I'm going to do this exact thing when I'm sitting behind that desk, when I've never sat behind that desk before. I'm not privy to all of the information available until I'm sitting there. I can have an idea, but when I was on the city council, you as the public, you would sit there and say, do this, and it sounds great. And behind that desk, I would have access to information that was not part of open records, that was truly people's private information that can never be shared. And it broadened the picture. And I realized, well, if I do this, it's going to harm this group over here. And so it's a balance, always a balance of how, benefiting the largest group of people without harm and without harming another group. And so, to be able to say, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and I'm going to do it exactly this way, that is not something that I can say at this point. What I can say is that I'm going to get in there and tear it apart and figure it out. Our Medicaid system is broken. I have a child that's been, he's 26, but a kiddo that's been there for since he was 8 years old on Medicaid as a disabled person. And I've seen that. I worked 15 years in pharmacy and watched how bad our Medicaid system operates. I worked in the hospital, watched how poorly our Medicaid system operates. And, we get people talking about Medicaid expansion and how we should just dump more people and money into it. That's not the answer. We have to fix what's wrong with the Medicaid system first, because otherwise we're just going to collapse the system. We're just going to cause even further problems. So those are just a few of major things, but there's lots more.
Well, and there's a common theme that I'm hearing here, and it's that you are not somebody that thinks just throwing more money and tax dollars at something means somehow or another that's going to fix any issue that we have, and that we have to go back to the core of it, which is like you had mentioned, getting something like Doge or started here in Kansas, where we do go over everything with a fine-tooth comb and realize, well, where's this money going? I mean, you can read the reports. Now, granted, this is not the state of Kansas, but at a federal level, where, I mean, it's insane the amount of money that these elected officials are allowed to delegate to one thing or another through Congress. And you just ask, well, is that running as efficiently as it's supposed to? Where's a lot? I mean, people ask the question, where's all this money going? And then we find out that, well, some of it even just gets lost.
Right.
I mean, so where's the accountability there?
Going to underwater basket weaving or something.
Yeah, or whatever, If you literally consider some of the things that they are just absolutely fine with spending money on, I'm not sure that everybody agrees on that, right? And to think that this just happens, and then once again it goes back to earlier in our conversation. Well, it's not me,
right?
It's not me. It's I'm not going to take responsibility for that. It's the whoever, ever, whatever, ever. So that's the problem. Just reelect me. Yeah. So I just got to say I like the fact that you are not somebody who's been there, right? I think we oftentimes forget how important it is to have an individual that's not part of the system to come in and look at things in a way with different eyes, with a different life experience, that's not entrenched in, well, this is how we do it, and you might wind up making this person, upset, or this department or whatever, the playing politics, as we call it. So, mentioning challenges, I always like to look at the flip side. I always ask questions about the flip side. What are a few things that you think that Kansas really has going for it right now?
Well, I think the people are the important part of the state. And I think what we're seeing across the board is that the people are getting sick and tired of the same old things and are wanting something different. And it takes those voices raising together and cooperating together. And I'm gonna say something that might be a little controversial, but on both sides, both Republican and Democrat, at the end of the day, we all want the same things for our lives. We want good education for our children. We want to be able to walk into that grocery store and afford the food on those shelves. We want affordable housing. We want lower taxes, and we want to be able to live a good and prosperous life. I don't think that anybody would disagree with me on those things. Where we get sideways on a lot of things are a lot of the social issues that we're never going to agree on, no matter how hard we try. And I believe that has been used as a tool against us to divide us, to keep us from coming to the table and talking about the things that we actually do agree on and can focus on. As governor, I won't be governor for just the Republicans, or, I'll be governor for everyone in this state. And so everyone's voice in this state is important to me. It doesn't matter where you are on those social issues. Like I said, we're never going to agree on those totally, but can we come together and make your life better in some way? And I think that answer is yes. We can figure that out together. But and I think that's what we're seeing. I don't even think I would say that we are really running more on a party of establishment versus non-establishment at this point. There are people within each party that feel this non-establishment, push, that we don't want those things that have been happening for the last 20, 30, 40 years to continue. And I think that it's just time for the people of the state to stand up and make their voice be heard.
Yeah. And, people that are not part of what's called the system, right? Like you were talking about, establishment, are a threat to the establishment.
Oh, yes.
And so the more people like yourself that are not establishment then get involved and have a voice and be a voice for people, then it's important that they stand up and they vote. So just a little side one here. I would ask this later in the program, but I think it's important just to ask it now. If there is somebody that is like what we talked about, just kind of disenfranchised with the way things are, they think, hey, if I go take the time to vote, if I mark it on my calendar or whatever the case may be, because especially already there's somebody else that's running for a Republican governor. They were second to file to you, but that so there's going to be a primary. Primaries have dismal turnouts. I mean, not to explain to people why primaries are so important, but just why voting is so important and how you can make a difference through your vote, and why it's so important to not be disenfranchised, especially when someone like yourself stands up and is not the establishment trying to get in to be able to be a voice just for people and not a voice for establishment ideologies and the system.
Yeah. Well, the push is to, and again, this is on both sides, the push is to create unity within their parties and present a candidate. And the problem with that is that that's when people don't see themselves in the candidate that's presented. And so it is incredibly important to vote, but I would take that a step back from that. And it's incredibly important to become involved in your party. There are, in the Republican Party, there's precinct people. I would assume on the Democratic side there's the same thing, or something similar.
There is, yes.
And precinct people are, I guess the best way to, they're the lowest elected official position that you can hold. Ground floor. And you are in your neighborhood, and your job is to get out in your neighborhood and let them know about what the issues are, who the candidates are, tell people about them, activate your neighborhood. And in Sedgwick County, we have an incredible amount of vacancies in those spots. There's a precinct, male and female in each precinct that can be filled, and we have like over 200 vacancies.
Wow.
So to get involved in your community is step one. If you are disenfranchised, that's where you want to go. You want to go and get involved. So I'm sure you've heard the term drain the swamp. Well, the way that is going to occur is when you have someone like me at the top that is fighting for the people, wants to work directly for the people, and then we are activating the precinct people in those parties to go out and do the job. And we work together from both sides. And that is how we drain the middle where the swamp is, and root out the people that should not be there and get the right people elected to work for the citizens of this state.
Yeah. I've often said, where's our common man candidate? So I don't want to use man because it could be ma'am.
Right.
But where have all the common people gone? I think it's the common person that we're speaking to, which is your everyday, like you said. I just want to be able to wake up. I want to be able to go to work. I want to be able to make a fair wage. I want my kids to go to a public school system that's educating them. They can graduate. They can go out. That there's a job for them. I want clean water. I want to make sure that we have water. I want my water to go somewhere, and not back into the water I'm drinking. Or I want for I guess where I'm coming to now is like we've seen a lot of focus placed on Kansas in the realm of economic development lately. Here in our community, just specifically Newton and Harvey County, we've seen a lot of forward momentum when it comes to people looking at Kansas and saying, I think Kansas is where I want to call home for my business. We're strategically located in the United States, especially for American-made manufacturing. All of this. So just for the audience, how important do you believe economic development is as a factor when we're talking all of the things that we've talked so far?
Well, as a business owner, I think economic development is incredibly important. We need to give them the space to do it, though. And a lot of that has to come with not strangling them with taxes and burdens and red tape and, all this stuff they have to jump through in order to even start their business. There's a lot of brilliant business-minded people out there that cannot get off the ground simply because they're being strangled by all the things that are required just to get there. And so we need to open that up and give more people the opportunity to be the backbone of our community, which is what those small and medium businesses are. Do we need some of the larger businesses? Sure. They provide jobs for people that don't want to be entrepreneurs and business owners. But those small and medium-sized businesses are truly what keeps our economy going, in that they are providing services that are niche services, that are things that bigger corporations can't do as good of a job providing. They offer those things that keep our economy running in the right direction. And when we start to strangle them out, which we're seeing at an astounding level, I'm always saddened every time I read an article about another business closing, and because they can't keep up economically. Their only recourse is to raise prices to the point which you raise the prices, and that is directly on the consumer. And the consumer says, well, I guess I'll just go to Amazon, or I guess I'll just go to this big box store. And it strangles that smaller retailer or whatever they're doing out. And we need to shift that back and give some of these companies a fair chance to create locally money that's going to stay locally in their community and benefit them. One of my businesses, all my businesses, the Kids Closet Wichita is a prime example of a business that serves a community directly. So it's a consignment. So local people bring items to sell. Local people then come shop at a drastically reduced price on gently used items. So it benefits both sides. People are working within their budget. They're also making money to put back into their budget. And then what is left over after the sale is actually donated directly into the community that it's in, to benefit people that cannot even afford to come shop our sale. So we're serving in lots of ways. Then, like, we have a sale coming up in March, and we switched last season to a location in Wichita that is a Salvation Army location. It's a very nice community center that they have. And we pay them for the use of their space, which they then take that money and provide local services directly into the community. So again, that's just another way that we're serving that community. So to be able to give businesses like that a chance to serve directly in their community and to benefit our state directly, that's an important thing. So,
and just for the record, anybody listening to this podcast, I don't send out questions in advance, right? Yeah. So I'm going to ask a question that is near and dear to my heart, and I think a lot of people's heart as we move forward. And just one topical thing is, I asked about economic development. So how important do you think mental health is as a priority to Kansans?
Yeah. Well, I think mental health is incredibly important. So I'll tell you a personal story. When I am one of the businesses I haven't talked about yet, when 2020 came around, I have been a highly decorated Mary Kay sales director. I've been with Mary Kay for 10 years. It is a company I'll never leave. I adore it. It taught me a lot of the leadership skills that I have today, and led me into all of these other businesses that I own today. But during that time, when the shutdown happened, I thought, just like everyone else, oh, goody, I'm going to go home and binge watch Netflix for 2 weeks.
Right.
And so I went home and I sat on my couch for 24 hours and I did exactly that. I binge watched Netflix or something. And then I got up off the couch and I was like, man, I don't feel good at all. And that was terrible. I don't want to do that at all. And I realized in that moment that what we were facing was a incredible mental health crisis. That if I stayed on that couch, I was physically going to feel worse. I was mentally going to feel worse. And so I actually took to doing live videos every single day, encouraging people to, hey guys, it's time to change out of those pajamas. Let's go take a shower, wash your face. And I would talk with people and try to help them stay moving and in the right direction mentally. Now, obviously, we are seeing a huge mental health crisis in this country, and I think that is directly related to that time and how much changed in our society because of those years, those COVID years. And do I have the answer to that? No, I don't. I wish that I could dial us back magically to that time and come up with something to make different decisions. Yes. But what we're facing today, I think, is just it's unprecedented mental health issues, and we need to put more supports in. I just don't know what that looks like today. I think that there are people out there scrambling to do the very best they can, but unfortunately there's a wide swath of the public that is not receiving services at all, not getting the help they need at all, trying to find that help through TikTok or YouTube or something, and it's just not enough. We need to address the underlying trauma, that whatever that may be, whether that trauma occurred as a result of what happened to us during those COVID years. I think that there is some direct correlation with that, but there's also trauma that happened prior to that wasn't dealt with, that it was just compounded upon. And so I mean, there needs to be some things put into place. I just don't have the answer for that today. So
knowing that you're aware of it and that it is a priority is very important to me. So if I really appreciate the conversation that we're having, and I like what I'm hearing, Stacy. So if there's somebody listening right now to our conversation and asking themselves, I like what I hear. I like the fact that this person is not part of the establishment. I'm wanting to vote for somebody. I don't want to be disenfranchised here. Just tell the audience, speak directly to the audience and tell them why they should vote for you.
Yeah. Well, because I will be your voice. I will fight for you. I am incredibly tenacious. I'm probably one of the hardest working people you will ever meet in your life. And I don't back down. When I say that I'm going to do something, that is what I'm going to do. I honor my word. I work as hard as I can. When I set a goal, I achieve it by, however hard I have to work to do that. I was at an event the other night, and somebody, it was very nice. Somebody stood up and was speaking to my character and my determination in all of this. And they said, we've been to about 70 events over the past several months. And this woman has been at every single one of them, talking with people, getting to know people, wanting to understand the issues. And they said, what other candidates do you ever see do that to that level? And I appreciated that, because I've never really thought about, you see candidates be visible, but you don't really think about how visible they're. How many things are they actually going to that are getting in there with the people, or are they just doing things to get on camera or whatever? So yeah, I mean, my goal is to work for the people of the state. I have no other ambition. And, I'd been encouraged to, why don't you go run and be a representative or a senator or something like that, and work your way up. And I realized that would make me exactly what I don't want to be, which is a career politician. I'm actually closer to retirement than I am to creating a whole new career. And quite frankly, I have plenty of work to do. And so the way our government was originally set up was for, for example, the farmer to come in and serve a term and then go back to their farm and go back to their business and their life. It wasn't set up for this career politician model that we have going on right now. And so, I have no other ambitions but to get in there and serve and do the very best I can for the state. So I think that sets me apart probably from any other politician out there that I've ever heard. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that. I have heard the vote for me over and over speech, but that's not who I am. My goal is to truly work for the people of the state and to hear their voice. I'm just one person. I'm just one opinion. And I have my opinions, but they may not be what needs to happen for the state. And I've said this before, what needs to happen in Western Kansas is different from what needs to happen in Sedgwick County or Johnson County or Topeka or whatever. And that's important to realize that their voices in Western Kansas, their voices in Sedgwick County, their voices in Johnson County are just as important as every other county in this state as well. And so it's not a blanket fix for every single thing in this state. If we apply legislation, it may actually harm a part of the state while it benefits another. And I think that we have to be very careful with that and listen to each area about what is actually important and needed for them. So.
Very good. Yeah. So just to the disenfranchised voter, you hit it on, because, as involved as I am, I have found myself even questioning, like, man, no matter how much effort a person puts into this, no matter how much time and energy a person puts into this, there really is that remnant of people that just don't want any part of it. And when you look at eligible registered voters and you look at, primaries and you all of it together, we really are at a dismal period of time when people just have lost faith. I think that's really is faith and trust in government. How will you reestablish that faith and trust in people that make the decision to vote for you, whether it's the first time they voted, whether it's, they're going to bank on you this time. I'm going to bank on you, Stacy, and I'm going to vote for you, right? What do you have to say when it comes to them placing their trust in you?
Yeah. Well, I think the proof is in the work, and asking people to put their faith in me is a big ask. And I realize that. I am the outsider. But like I said before, when I put my mind to something, I follow through with it. I am true to my word. I fight until I can't fight anymore, and I don't give up. I don't quit. And so when someone puts their faith in me, they will get what I have promised. However, I have to do that. And, I want to be, I'm a truthful person. I want to live up to my word. And so the proof will be in the work that I do when I'm there. I don't think there's any other way for me to prove that at this point, because I haven't done the work, and I won't be able to do the work till I'm in that position. But I will spend every day proving myself to the people of this state that they made the right choice.
Very good. Very good. Okay. We are getting short. We're coming to the end of the program. Okay. We try to keep about an hour. And one thing that I do every time, and is a staple of this program, is that when I have a guest come on, I give them the last word. And what I always say is that this is your chance to speak directly to the hearts and the minds of anybody listening. What do you have to say, Stacy?
Well, I want to say thank you. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to come into your home or wherever you're watching this, and to hopefully give you some hope in the future. We do have a beautiful state. We have a wonderful place to live. Kansas is, whenever I travel outside of the state and I come home, I just breathe a sigh of relief as soon as I cross the border, and I'm like, I'm home. And, the people of this state are the kindest in the nation. They are the best in the nation. We should be proud to live here, and I would be honored beyond belief and proud to serve you as your Kansas governor in 2026. And so I prayerfully ask for you to consider putting your faith and your trust in me to do that job for you. Yeah.
And one last thing.
Yes.
How do people get a hold of you?
Well, so if you Google Stacy Rogers, Kansas or Stacy Rogers, Wichita, you're going to see every social media platform that I'm on, and it's extensive. I'm on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook is probably the most major one, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok for a couple more days anyways, and Truth Social. There's a few more out there that I'm on, but you can find me on those and connect with me. I have a website as well. It is stacyrogersforkansas.com, and you can connect with me there as well. My biggest ask right now for people is to, tell other people about me. Put me in front of other people, let them know about those social media pages so that they can research me for themselves. I don't hide anything. I don't try to, I'll answer any question. I'll take any phone call. My phone number is on the website. You can call and leave me a message or text me. Text is usually better, but you can reach out to me at any time and I will answer that question to the best of my ability. I want to hear your voice. I want to hear the concerns. And so, yeah, please get a hold of me. Absolutely.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks, and thanks for listening to this episode of Harvey County Talk. Our special guest on the program today was Stacy Rogers, who is the owner of Eberly Farms, Kids Closet Wichita, KCC North America, 26 franchises, and a candidate for the state of Kansas governor. So we appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.